Well, and as that case moves forward, there are major legal questions about what comes next. Attorney Josh Colesrud is back with us once again. This is such a sad and disturbing case. What could possibly be Nick Reiner's defense?
Well, it's a good question. I look at other celebrity cases where there are similar facts.
Right.
For instance, like the Menendez brothers case.
Greed.
Exactly. Now, here it seems like, from the evidence that's been presented in the media, that Nick had some severe mental issues and probably some drug issues as well. Now, in California, just like Arizona, drug use and addiction can never be an affirmative defense, but mental health can. So I would expect that the defense is going to spend a lot of time exploring an insanity defense in this case.
Okay, but we were talking earlier, and we have video of when he went to a gas station to buy a drink. This was moments before he was arrested for the murders. So what does that tell you? What would an attorney argue in this case?
Well, it's relevant to show what he looked like after he allegedly committed the murders. Now, to be fair, that footage was hours after the murders had taken place.
Right.
So, but what it does show is that he looks kind of normal. Yeah. He's not howling at the moon. He's not running naked in the street. Right. He purposefully went into a store very calmly and bought a drink. So if I'm the prosecution, I'm saying that this doesn't look like somebody who's necessarily insane.
Okay, so this was also mentioned too, that obviously he's charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder with the special circumstance of multiple murders. What exactly does that mean?
So special circumstances in California means the same thing as aggravating circumstances in Arizona. So in California, in order to enhance a first-degree murder charge, so the sentence is either no possibility of parole or the death penalty, they have to find at least one special circumstance. And here, what the prosecution has indicated is that because there were multiple murders committed during the same episode, that is a special circumstance that they're going to be alleging.
Okay, so that was into my next question. I mean, are we talking, do you think he could get life without parole or the death penalty?
Well, what he could get is anybody's guess. Now, I fully expect that the prosecution is going to allege the special circumstances. Now, where that goes from here is anybody's guess, because it still needs to be found after the guilt is found in this case by a jury. And as well, this is the special thing here, is that Governor Newsom signed an executive order. So there's a moratorium on the death penalty in California. So nobody can actually be put to death right now. And if that executive order is still in place after Gavin Newsom leaves, then obviously he's not going to get the death penalty.
Out of curiosity, let's just say there is an inheritance, because clearly, Rob Reiner made such a name for himself, incredibly wealthy. If there is an inheritance in a situation like this, what happens? Does he get any of that?
So California actually has statutes that deal specifically with this type of scenario. And so does Arizona. They're called Slayer statutes, which means that a perpetrator or a suspect cannot benefit from an act that causes somebody else's death. So here, he hasn't been found guilty of anything, but a probate court is likely to freeze all of the assets, at least until his criminal case has been concluded.
And what about his legal fees? How is that taken care of?
So the court will always appoint an attorney if he cannot afford one. Everybody is entitled to what's called a competent defense. However, he certainly has the right to hire counsel from his own money, but that has nothing to do with the court.
All right, Josh, great insight on this case. Thank you so very much. Troy?